Last time we've done this many years, Randy Ambrosie, his last Grey Cup as commissioner of the Canadian Football League. First of all, what is this week, what has this day been like for you, knowing it is your last one? Is it sadness? Is it contentment? What are you feeling?
I think I'm feeling it all, to be honest with you. A little bit of everything. I mean, look, I woke up this morning and I reminded myself to enjoy every moment of the day because it would be the last time I'm doing so many of these special things. And, it's a little bit of, oh my gosh, like won't do it again. But it's been a great day. I'm with my family, with all of you. And it's going to be just, now all I want is a great game.
I know you'd been thinking about how long you wanted to stay, and maybe there was an exit plan coming soon. But our Dave Naylor had reported that you'd lost support, a narrow margin of the board. Would you have stayed longer if that support was there?
It's not the way I'm thinking about it. Look, when Scott Banda, the board chair, came to me, he gave me a sense of what the governors were thinking, and there were a couple of specific things that were, that they were thinking about. How do we get to the next level, particularly with media rights? And I said to Scott, look, I think if there's a concern on some of those issues, let's talk them through and see what the best path forward is. And in the end, I think we both agreed, look, maybe it is a good time with all the arrows pointing up for me to jump out. So I know I'm so grateful to the board for the way they've handled everything. And I feel like we've accomplished a lot, and now it's a good time for me to pass the baton.
Those accomplishments, what are you most proud of in your 8 years here?
Well, I think you got to start with ownership. You look at, there's never been a group of owners. If you look at Pierre-Karl Palado at one end of the country and Amar Doman at the other, the addition of Larry Thompson and his wife Deb this year in Edmonton, this is the strongest ownership in the history of the league. Bob Young said to me, James, in 2017 or 18, he said, Randy, commissioners should be judged by the quality of the owners that they associate with. Through that lens, it's been a great success. So that's one. But two is, I'm most proud of how much I've loved the job.
Well, you're right. So many commissioners have had tenures where there's been fires putting out constantly, and that really hasn't happened, although you had the ultimate fire in COVID that you had to deal with, canceling an entire season. What would be your biggest disappointment?
Well, I would have wanted to get Halifax and that 10th franchise. I'm going to strongly urge the league to continue to focus on that. I think there is an opportunity, particularly out east. Look, that would have been the one if you could do that.
But you tried so hard. Isn't that lack of a stadium seems to be this permanent, immovable object the CFL can't get by?
Yeah, and it is. And candidly, James, you're 100% right. But somebody's got to pull us in now. Somebody's got to decide they want to have a team in that market, and they got to reach into the league and pull us in. But I still believe it's got to be a priority for the CFL. And if there was one thing I would have loved to have done is made that announcement.
CFL 2.0 was another big part of your vision and of your tenure. And you wanted to make this a bit of a worldwide league. We did see some more international players come into the league. But in retrospect, was it naive to think that, having a couple of kickers from one country would make a country suddenly fall in love with the CFL?
Well, it's a great question, and look, I don't think I didn't go into it thinking it needed to be transformational. At the end of the day, sports leagues are built on talent, and accessing more talent is ultimately good for your game. And that's really the story of the league now, is the quality of our players, I believe, is the highest it's ever been. The Canadians this is the best performing generation of Canadians in the league's history. The quality of the talent is as high as it's been. And I think, the Globals have played a small part in that. It hasn't been transformational, but I still think it's been positive.
Is there any concern about the new ownership in Toronto? The fact that it's Rogers taking full control of the team who haven't been involved in the CFL?
Well, I've had one opportunity to sit down with Edward Rogers and Tony Staffieri. I have to say I totally enjoyed it. I really enjoyed meeting Edward. We talked about his family's history in sports. What I took from that is that's a man that loves the world of sports. So, look, he asked me some good questions about the CFL. I answered them honestly. I am still a big believer in the Argonauts in Toronto, in the future of the league in Toronto, and I have no reason to believe that that's not going to happen under Edward Rogers.
The search for your replacement is still very early stage, and Dave and Farhan reported earlier you might be the commissioner for several months into 2025. When that new commissioner eventually gets hired, and if he picks up the phone and calls you, what would be your number one piece of advice?
Well, first I'd say stick to this plan that we're currently working on, because it's working really well. I mean, we've seen growth in our marketable fan base. The league office alone just went through 1 million social media followers. Those things are really positive. I would say work well with the teams, work well with the presidents, because ultimately that management council group, they're critically important to the league's future.
Well, I don't think anyone questioned, and I don't think any of the fans around this country who love this league question your passion for the game and your passion for the CFL. So we thank you, and I enjoyed our chats over the years.
James, thanks very much, and let's have a great game today.
Randy Ambrosie, the soon-to-be outgoing commissioner of the Canadian Football League.